Before you decide it's over, watch this. Too many men surrender too soon. Not because she stopped loving them, but because they never learned how to stand still in the storm. She's distant, she's colder than before, she doesn't reply with the same warmth, and you feel the silence swallowing everything that used to feel alive. But what if I told you, this isn't the end? What if this quiet, painful space is your greatest opportunity to grow? Not by chasing, not by pleading, but by holding your ground like a man who knows his worth. Most men rush to fix what they don't understand. They act from fear, not wisdom. But the Stoic knows love cannot be demanded. It must be inspired. So before you walk away defeated, sit with me for a few minutes. I'll show you how to respond, not react. How to stand firm without losing your soul. How to become the kind of man she never expected but will never forget. 1. The silent test you didn't even notice. Most men miss this completely. They think she's just acting cold, that she's lost interest. But in truth, this is a test, a silent one, a subtle one, not always planned, but deeply instinctive. She's not just pulling away, she's watching how you respond when the warmth fades, watching if you chase or if you hold your ground. This is not about words. This is about energy, about emotional strength. When she delays her reply, will you panic? When she cancels plans, will you rush to reschedule? When she grows distant, will you beg for closeness? The answer you give, without even speaking, tells her everything she needs to know. And most men fail instantly. One missed text and they double message. One cold night and they ask, is everything okay? Without knowing it, they confirm what she feared. She has all the power, but the Stoic man, he does something rare. He doesn't react emotionally. He doesn't chase shadows. He remains calm, still, unshaken. And that calm creates a storm inside her. Suddenly she begins to wonder, why isn't he reacting? Did I misjudge him? Is he stronger than I thought? That shift, when she begins to doubt her control, is when attraction begins again. Because the man who does not flinch, the man who doesn't beg for her presence, becomes the man she cannot ignore. So, don't just pass the silent test. Embrace it. Let her see that your peace is not negotiable, that you can lose her and still remain whole. 2. Why she's pulling away in the first place. Most men panic when a woman pulls away. They assume the worst. She's lost interest. She's found someone else. She no longer cares. But the Stoic doesn't assume. He observes. He understands that desire fades not in an instant, but in quiet moments when mystery turns to certainty, when presence turns into predictability. In the beginning, you were a challenge, a man of vision, composed, unpredictable. You moved with purpose, not out of need. But over time you became too known, too available. You gave her all your attention, too freely, too soon. And what is given without effort is seldom valued. She's not pulling away to hurt you. She's reacting to what no longer stirs her spirit. And here is where most men fall. They chase, they text more, call more, try harder. And with every act of desperation, they confirm her silent doubts. You need her more than you need yourself. But not you, not now, because you've learned something few ever will, that a woman's distance is not always rejection. Sometimes it's a test. Sometimes it's a call for you to return to yourself. So don't rush to fix what's unraveling. Let space do what words cannot. Let silence teach her what presence never did. When she pulls away, don't follow. Stand still. Let her feel what she once feared losing. Because a man who holds his center. 3. What to do instead of chasing. When a woman pulls away, most men try to fix it. They write long messages, explain their feelings, reassure her of their love. But love doesn't grow through explanation. It grows through energy, through space, through presence without pressure. The more you try to convince her, the more she feels the imbalance. Because when you chase, you're telling her without saying a word, you have more value than I do. But the Stoic man sees things differently. He does not react, he responds. Not with panic, but with power. If she pulls away, he pulls back. Not as punishment, but as alignment. If her energy shifts, so does his. He doesn't overinvest. He doesn't reach for someone who's drifting. He allows her the space to feel, to miss, to wonder, and when she returns, if she returns, he meets her not with desperation, but with calm awareness. This is where attraction reignites, not through pleading, but through restraint. So if you feel the urge to chase, pause, match her distance, recenter yourself. The woman meant for you won't need to be convinced. She'll feel the strength in your silence, and if she's wise enough, she'll come closer, not because you begged her, but because you never lost yourself trying to keep her. 4. How to handle it. She's been silent for days, maybe weeks, and suddenly a message lights up your screen. Hey, most men would leap at the chance. Heart pounding, fingers rushing. They see it as a victory. She came back. But the Stoic man pauses. He knows this moment is not the end of the test. It's the beginning of the real one, because how you handle her return reveals whether you've grown or whether you're still the same man she left. If you rush back in, reply instantly, drop your boundaries, make her the center of your world again. You confirm her deepest assumption. You were always waiting, but if you respond calmly, with grounded energy, as a man who's moved forward, not out of spite, but out of evolution, everything shifts. Let her prove she's serious. Let her rebuild the connection with effort, the same way you would if you had been the one who disappeared. This isn't about games. It's about standards. She chose distance. Now she must earn closeness. And if she doesn't, you walk away, not in bitterness, but in peace. The Stoic man doesn't get swept up by a sudden text. He understands that love is not validated by return, but by consistency after return. So don't welcome her back too easily. Let her feel the distance she created. Let her work to close it. And if she's unwilling, then she was never truly yours. But if she's genuine, you'll know, not by what she says, but by how she shows up. 5. The power of controlled distance. Most men don't realize this. Women don't fall in love with presence. They fall in love with absence. Not with the man who is always there, but with the man whose silence echoes when he's not. You see, when you give too much, too soon, too easily, what you offer begins to lose weight. The texts, the attention, the instant replies, they stop feeling special. What is abundant is rarely appreciated. But the man who masters distance, not from indifference, but from inner discipline, becomes unforgettable. When she doesn't hear from you, she wonders. When you stop liking her photos, she notices. When your time is no longer wrapped around hers, she begins to feel the shift. And that shift creates tension. Not the kind that pushes her away, but the kind that pulls her thoughts back to you. This is where most men go wrong. She pulls away and they chase. She goes silent and they call more. But the Stoic man steps back and lets the absence speak. He reclaims his time, his focus, his purpose, and in doing so, he becomes scarce. Not because he's playing games, but because he values himself. And slowly the questions begin to surface in her mind. Why isn't he reaching out? Has he lost interest? Is he moving on? Mystery returns. Attraction stirs again, because the moment she has to wonder where you are is the moment you regain your value in her eyes. So practice controlled distance, not out of anger, not to punish her, but to protect your essence, and remind her you were never hers to take for granted. 6. The power of silence. Most men believe they need to say something, to argue, to explain, to fix what feels broken. But the Stoic knows silence is often louder than words. When she pulls away, your instinct may scream to reach out, to remind her what you had, to ask what went wrong. But silence carries a different kind of weight. At first she might not notice it. She assumes you'll come back. like you always did, but the days pass, then weeks, no texts, no calls, no likes, no presence, and suddenly the silence starts to echo, not in her ears, but in her mind, because silence isn't just absence. It's a statement, a mirror, a shift in emotional power. She expected you to chase. She counted on your reaction. But when you give her nothing, not out of anger but out of peace, something begins to stir within her. Uncertainty, curiosity, regret. She begins to wonder, why isn't he reaching out? Did I lose him? Was he stronger than I thought? And here's the truth. A man who embraces silence holds more power than the one who fills the void with noise. Not because he's playing games, but because he knows his worth cannot be shouted. It is felt in his restraint, in the space he allows, in the stillness that leaves her thinking. So when you feel the need to say something, say nothing. Let your silence speak. Let it do the work words never could. Because in a world full of noise, the man who masters silence becomes unforgettable. 7. If she never comes back, read this. Here's the truth you must face. She might not return, and if that's the case, let her go, not in anger, not with bitterness, but with gratitude for the clarity she gave you, because the woman who walks away and never looks back is the one who was never meant to stay. She didn't fail you. She revealed herself, and that is a gift. The Stoic does not mourn what was never his. He does not chase what is running from him. He understands a simple truth. Love that must be begged for is not love at all. The woman who disappears when you stop chasing has shown you her condition. She stays only when she feels pursued. But you don't want a love built on pressure. You want a love rooted in choice. A woman who chooses to stay, not because you chased, but because you stood still. And if she can't see your value without you proving it every day, she's not meant to hold a place in your future. So if she never comes back, celebrate. You've been released, not rejected. You've been freed from spending years trying to earn something that was never truly yours. This is where real strength begins, in choosing peace over pursuit, in knowing that letting go is not loss, it is alignment. You did not fail. You simply refused to chase what was walking away, and that, my brother, is power. 8. The moment she starts to feel your absence. At first she feels nothing, maybe even relief. She thinks, he'll come back. He always does. She scrolls. She smiles. She posts something she hopes you'll see, and still nothing from you. One day passes, and 3, then a week. No message, no reaction, no attempt to check in. And slowly, something shifts. She checks her phone more than usual. She rereads your last conversation, looks at the timestamp, wonders why the silence feels louder than ever before. Because now, for the first time, you're no longer predictable. You're not chasing. You're not waiting. You've become absent. And absence is powerful. It creates space for reflection, for regret, for questions she never thought she'd ask. Did I make a mistake? Did he stop caring? Is he moving on? What she once took for granted now becomes a ghost she can't ignore. Not because you punished her, but because you finally prioritized your peace. Most men never make it to this moment. They fold too soon. They reach out too quickly. But the Stoic man waits, not in hope, but in discipline, because he knows if she is the right woman, she will feel the void of his absence. And if she doesn't, then she never truly valued his presence. So let the silence linger. Let her sit with the quiet. Because this moment, when she starts to feel what you once felt, is where the power begins to return to you. 9. The unspoken rule of attraction. Here's something most men never realize. A woman values you based on how difficult you are to replace. When you're always available, always reaching out, always waiting in the wings, she never has to consider losing you. And what she doesn't fear losing, she doesn't truly treasure. But when you pull back, not as a tactic, but as a return to your own center, something begins to shift. She starts to notice what's missing, not because you've said anything, but because you've stopped saying everything. The attention is gone. The validation is silent. The presence she once overlooked is now a void. And here lies the unspoken rule of attraction. Mystery creates value. Rarity creates desire. When she senses that you are not easily replaced, that your energy, your discipline, your peace are not something she can find in just anyone, she begins to feel something unfamiliar. Uncertainty. Did I misjudge him? Did I underestimate his worth? These questions begin to echo, and they echo because you stopped echoing her behavior. Most men never get here. They dilute their presence, trying to prove it. But the Stoic man stands still. He does not over-explain. He does not overcompensate. He becomes rare, and in doing so, he becomes unforgettable. So remember this: when you live a life rooted in self-respect, purpose, and inner strength, you stop trying to be chosen and start becoming someone worth choosing. Attraction is not built on availability. It's built on the quiet confidence that if she walks away, you'll still be whole. 10. Why women underestimate you until you go silent. Most women assume you'll always be there. Why wouldn't they? Most men are predictable. They chase at the first sign of distance. They explain, they plead, they stay even when they're being emotionally starved. So she tests you. Sometimes without even realizing it, she pulls back, goes quiet, disengages, and she expects you to do what every other man does, run after her. But the Stoic man does something different. He doesn't react. He disappears, not in fear, but in focus. And suddenly, everything changes. She starts to wonder, why isn't he texting? Why hasn't he checked in? Did I misread him? That single question, did I misjudge him, triggers a spiral of doubt. And it's not because you played a game. It's because you broke a pattern. You showed her something rare, a man who values his peace over her validation, a man who isn't moved by emotional bait. Most men chase approval. The Stoic earns respect, and when she realizes she can no longer predict you, she begins to rethink the story she told herself about you. Silence becomes your power, not because it hurts her, but because it humbles her. She begins to see you not as someone waiting, but as someone walking forward, and for the first time, she feels uncertain. So let her underestimate you. Let her believe you're just like the rest, because when you respond with silence, with composure, with absence, you become something she never expected. And now, cannot forget. 11. The subtle signs. She's testing the waters. It doesn't start with a long apology. Not with a phone call, not with an honest confession. It starts with a hey, a reaction to your story, a comment on something she once ignored. On the surface it seems small, harmless, but beneath it, that intent. She's not reconnecting, she's testing. She wants to know, are you still there? Can she still get a response? Is your energy still available, just waiting to be reactivated? And here's where most men fail. They respond too quickly, too eagerly, too emotionally. With that one fast reply, they erase the power their silence built. And just like that, the chase begins again. Only this time, she's no longer curious. She has her answer, but the Stoic man sees through it. He knows the difference between a sincere reach and a shallow check-in. So when she drops breadcrumbs, he doesn't follow. He watches. He listens. But he does not react. Why? Because he doesn't trade his attention for scraps of uncertainty. If she truly wants back in, she'll show it with consistency, with vulnerability, with real action. Anything less is just a test of control, and the Stoic man, he's already passed that exam. So don't confuse attention with intention. Don't take every hey as an invitation. Let her wonder. Let her wait, and let your stillness remind her. You're not here to be checked on. You're here to be chosen. 12. How to handle the moment she reaches out. She finally texts you. Maybe it's just hey. Maybe it's, I've been thinking about you. Maybe it's a meme pretending like nothing happened. And in that moment, your heart stirs. Your instinct wants to light up, to respond quickly, to pick up where things left off, to pause. This moment isn't a finish line. It's a fork in the road. Most men get it wrong right here. They dive back in, smiling, eager, available, and in doing so, they confirm what she feared. You never left. You were always waiting, always hoping, still hers even in absence. But the Stoic man doesn't respond from hunger. He responds from strength. He doesn't ignore out of spite, but he doesn't chase out of weakness either. He holds the line. He protects the space he created, because that silence, that distance, wasn't punishment, it was growth. And just because she's returned doesn't mean the story resets. If she disappeared without effort, she must return with intention. So when she reaches out, stay composed. Don't make her message the highlight of your day. Don't drop your boundaries to make her feel welcome. Let her wonder. Let her work. You're no longer the man she left. You've changed, and she needs to feel that. Because attraction isn't reignited by comfort. It's reignited by challenge. So when she comes back, don't fall into old patterns. Let her see that the man she once knew no longer waits. He leads. He chooses. He lets actions speak louder than memories. 13. Why she suddenly starts watching you again. She won't text you. She won't say, "I miss you." But one day she starts watching. She checks if you've seen her story, scrolls through your old messages, maybe even likes a photo from weeks ago. And you wonder, why now? Why is she back on my radar? The answer is simple. Your silence got louder than your words ever did. She expected you to chase, to fill the silence with apologies, promises, attention. But when you didn't, when you gave her stillness instead of noise, she lost control of the story. Now she's trying to read you from afar. She's not ready to reach out, not ready to admit the pull she feels. But her eyes are searching for signs. Is he moving on? Has he replaced me? Why is he so quiet, and yet still in my head? And here's the twist. The more she watches, the more her emotions betray her. Because what she finds is a man who did not break, a man who didn't collapse when she walked away, who didn't perform to win her back, a man who grew stronger in solitude. That image, it unsettles her, because now she's not watching out of curiosity, but out of doubt. Doubt that she truly understood your worth. Doubt that she'll find it again elsewhere. And all of it came from one simple, powerful decision. You stayed silent, not to punish, not to manipulate, but because you finally realized your value doesn't need an audience. So when she starts watching again, don't flinch, don't chase. Let her look, let her wonder, because the man she sees now is not the one she left behind. He's wiser. He's calmer, he's free. 14. When your silence becomes unbearable for her. In the beginning, your silence felt like a pause. She thought it was temporary, that soon you'd reach out, try again, break the quiet like you always did. But days turned into weeks, and still, nothing. No messages, no likes, no signs of your attention. And something inside her shifts. What once felt like control now feels like confusion. She checks her phone more often, scrolls through old conversations, wonders if she missed something, and for the first time, she begins to feel what you once felt. Uncertainty, restlessness, loss, because now you're no longer a background presence. You're not silently orbiting her world anymore. You've vanished, not in anger, but in peace. And that absence, it's no longer just noticed. It's felt, not as punishment, but as a consequence. She assumed she had time. She assumed you'd wait. She assumed she could leave the door half open and still find you standing there. But the Stoic man doesn't wait forever. He doesn't remain in limbo. He evolves. He outgrows. He moves on. Silently, powerfully. And that's what unsettles her most. Not the silence itself, but what it represents. You're no longer hers to lose. You've reclaimed your power, and in doing so, you've become the one thing she never expected. Gone, not with rage, not with drama, but with quiet resolution. That's the silence she can't bear, because deep down, she knows you didn't disappear, you elevated. 15. The ultimate mindset shift. Here's where everything changes. Not in her, but in you. You've spent so much time wondering what she feels, what she wants, what she'll do. But the Stoic man asks a different question. Who am I becoming, with or without her? Because the goal was never to win her back. The goal was to win yourself back. The man who used to overthink, who used to seek validation, who used to fear distance, silence, rejection. That man is gone. In his place now stands someone different, someone who's learned to breathe in solitude, to walk with dignity, to speak less and observe more. And that, my friend, is the ultimate shift. You stop chasing, you stop proving, you stop trying to control what was never in your hands. You let go, you rise, you level up, you become the kind of man who doesn't beg for affection because he is already full from within, the kind of man who doesn't ask to be chosen because he's already chosen himself. And suddenly, everything changes. She feels it. People around you feel it. Even you feel it. Because this isn't about being colder. It's about being clearer, clear on your value, clear on your boundaries, clear on the kind of love you will never chase again. You don't win a woman by trying to impress her. You win her or lose her by standing in your truth and letting her decide if she can meet you there. That's the mindset. That's the shift. And once you embrace it, you'll never play the old game again. 16. When she starts looking for you in other men, she won't admit it, she might not even realize it, but when your silence becomes too loud, when your absence becomes too heavy, she begins to search, not for closure, not for growth, but for replacement. She takes old flings, replies to DMs she used to ignore, flirts in places she never cared to before. Not because she's over you, but because she can't feel you anymore. And now the void is real, tangible, inescapable. So she does what most do when they lose something of value. She tries to recreate it elsewhere. But here's the problem. What you gave her can't be copied. Your presence, your stability, your depth, your silence that spoke more than words. These things don't come standard. They come rare. They come earned. And the more she tries to find you in someone else, the more disappointed she becomes. Because others may be louder, more available, easier, but they don't move the way you did. They don't command space the way you did. They don't hold their ground in silence. And slowly, comparison creeps in, not because she misses being chased, but because she misses the man who never needed to chase. The Stoic, the anchored one, the one who didn't beg to be seen, because he saw himself. That's the man she starts searching for, only to realize he's no longer where she left him. And that's the moment she begins to feel not just your absence, but your evolution, because now she's not just missing you, she's missing the version of herself that was once seen by a man she didn't know she'd never replace. 17. Detachment, the game changer. Detachment is not indifference. It's not coldness. It's not pretending you never cared. Detachment is power. It's the quiet understanding that you can love deeply and still walk away when love stops honoring your worth. Most men confuse obsession with loyalty. They hold on even when it hurts. They believe persistence is the answer, but the Stoic man knows better. He loves fully, yes, but he never chains his identity to someone else's presence. And when the time comes, when she pulls away, plays games, or disappears, he doesn't collapse. He doesn't negotiate with disrespect. He lets go, not because he gave up, but because he woke up. Detachment is not about being heartless. It's about having a heart that knows when it's being mishandled. When you detach, you no longer fear silence. You no longer chase clarity. Because now you've found clarity within yourself. And here's the part she never saw coming. You were the prize. You were the one she thought would wait forever. The one she believed would stay within reach. But through your silence, through your restraint, you've shown her something rare. You don't need her validation to feel valuable. And that truth shatters everything, because now she realizes she can no longer manipulate what she no longer controls. That man who once overgave, is gone. In his place stands a man who's learned the rarest form of love, self-respect. And that, my friend, is the moment she finally understands what you knew all along. Real love begins where attachment ends. 18. Why her ego won't let her admit she misses you. Deep down, she feels it, the absence, the loss, the ache she didn't expect. But you won't hear her say it, not directly, because missing you is easy. Admitting it, that's where her ego steps in. You see, there are two sides within her. One is emotional, soft, reflective, longing. The part of her that replays old memories, that wonders if she misjudged your worth, that quietly hopes you'll reach out first. But then there's the other side, the ego, the part that refuses to be the one who lost, that sees silence not as your boundary, but as a challenge. The ego wants to win, to keep the upper hand, even if it means denying her own heart. So instead of honesty, she posts curated joy, selfies, smiles, "I'm doing amazing" energy. But behind every photo is the question she won't say out loud. Is he watching? She might even send a casual message, not to reconnect, but to see if you'll make it easy for her to come back. But the Stoic man doesn't bite. He doesn't chase breadcrumbs. He doesn't reward pride with presence, because he knows if her ego must stay intact at the cost of truth, she's not ready for something real. So he stays still, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. And eventually, something gives. The performance fades, the ego gets tired, and what remains is raw, unfiltered emotion. She misses you, not just the comfort, not just the attention, but you, the grounded, silent, powerful presence she thought she could walk away from. And in that moment, she no longer wonders if you'll come back. She starts to wonder if she still has a place in the world you've built without her. 19. Don't chase, level up. Let this be the moment it ends, not the relationship, but the version of you that believed you had to chase love to be worthy of it. You've done enough. You've waited long enough. You've felt deeply, endured silently, and held yourself with grace. Now it's time to rise, not to get her back, not to prove anything, but because you were never meant to stay in this waiting room of what if. The Stoic doesn't linger at closed doors. He builds new ones. So level up. Get stronger, not to impress her, but to honor yourself. Build something. Refine your mind. Discipline your body. Heal your inner world. Become the man who doesn't chase, because his life is too full, his mission too clear, his energy too sacred, to be spent convincing someone to see his worth. And if one day she looks back, if she realizes what she lost, if she wants another chance, so you won't respond with resentment. You'll respond with peace, because you'll know she was part of your story, but she was never the story. You are. So write the next chapter with your head high, with your standards raised, with your soul intact. Don't chase, become. And let the world, including her, feel the quiet storm of the man who no longer needs to be chosen, because he's already chosen himself. 20. What to do when she comes back. She returns. Maybe it's a message that feels casual. Maybe it's longer. Maybe it's vulnerable. And in that moment, every part of you might want to believe it's real this time. But the Stoic man knows this is not the end of the test. It's the final chapter. And how you respond now determines everything. Most men fail here. They leap back in, smiling wide, dropping their standards. She says, "I miss you," and they erase every lesson the silence taught them. But not you, because you've changed. You're no longer the man who needed her to stay. You're the man who found strength in letting go. So when she returns, stay grounded. Respond if you choose. But do it from clarity, not craving. Don't rearrange your world because she texted. Don't rush to give her the comfort of your old self. Let her feel the weight of her return. Let her earn the space she once walked away from. Because true love is not proven by reappearance. It's proven by consistency after the return. And if she's not ready to rebuild with sincerity, if she comes back only for reassurance, for attention, for control, then let her go again, not with anger, not with ego, but with quiet resolve, because the Stoic man doesn't fall twice for the same illusion. He loves with depth, but he leads with wisdom. So if she comes back, don't go back, invite her forward, into the new version of you, and if she can't meet you there, then smile and keep walking, because sometimes the return isn't a second chance for love, it's a final test of your growth. If you've made it this far, it means you're not just trying to save a relationship, you're trying to save yourself. And that's the real work, not chasing her, but choosing you. Remember this, you don't rise by winning someone back, you rise by becoming the kind of man who no longer needs to. So don't act out of fear. Don't move from weakness. Move from clarity. Move from purpose. Move like a man who's grounded in what cannot be taken away. His values, his discipline, his peace. And if she sees that, let her come closer. If she doesn't, let her drift. Either way, you've already won, because the man who no longer fears losing her is the man who has finally found himself. Stay silent, stay strong, and keep walking,